Laura Kunsberg there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Asa Bennett, Brexit commissioning editor at the Daily Telegraph, and Susie Boniface, a columnist for the Daily Mirror. And I think it's fair to say that you come to this debate from slightly different political angles.
Indeed.
I'm loath to get into process, but actually I think the stagecraft of all of this is quite fascinating, the choreography, because the clear intention was here to put a united front on for as long as possible. The question is how long it will last, Susie.
Well, they need it to last for another 9 months before we have the Brexit deadline. But what we've had up till now is 2 years of the Conservative Party basically negotiating with itself, arguing, leaking, being terrible disarray.
And that's why their phones were taken away.
Which is why their phones were taken away and not given back to them until they had, after they'd had their dinner. And in the meantime, the Prime Minister put out a statement saying we've reached an agreement. While they were still sitting down eating their beef and bread and butter pudding, the Prime Minister was saying this is the agreement, and she also put in there collective responsibility has now been restored, and if you say it then it must be so. But because then Boris Johnson and her opponents don't get their phones back until maybe 10 o'clock, it's too late for the next day's papers. They've got the story about Theresa May has achieved a solid win here, and then it's maybe 24 hours before Boris and the others have a chance to oppose that. In the meantime, of course, England's got a big World Cup game, so it's not going to get in. By the time they get around to resigning, the moment will have passed, so therefore they're not going to resign. They'll have lost that dramatic impetus, and Theresa's won several days of a nice, calm bit of government unity, which she hasn't had for the past 2 years.
For a long time. OK, so late on a Friday night or early on to a Saturday morning in London, we have a united, collected cabinet. How long is that going to last, though? What are you hearing from MPs, members of the Conservative Party in Britain?
It will. It's already. Let's say this: the cabinet's looking pretty plain sailing. It will sail through the weekend, happy as anything, united like you've never believed. Obviously, there are tremors from the rest of the party, and this is going to be a little bit of a quake on Monday night when Theresa comes back, seemingly triumphant from Chequers, ready to present her deal to the rest of the party. Those who aren't in cabinet, those who don't have to worry about those holding office, the backbenchers, they'll be speaking their minds, and some of them are not happy bunnies. That over the last few hours, one or two of them have been messaging me about, how this is just pretend sovereignty. The Rasputin officials have got them, and actually this is just Theresa caving in. They're all in a bubble, So the question is, are they going to be as angry on Monday? Because they will be having the same line of thinking as Brexit ministers of, where do I take this anger? Do I try and shake the tree, bring everything down, ruin Brexit with it? Or do we maybe support it through gritted teeth, and maybe hopefully the EU will allow something or insist it gets pared down differently? There's all sorts of rationale they're going to have to think. Either way, Theresa May has momentum. That's what matters for her.
Because, of course, in Britain, Theresa May is in a very difficult position politically, isn't she? She is surrounded by people who want to go in different directions. She doesn't have the majority that she needs to get things through Parliament. So is this an artful compromise, or is it, as we say, a bit of a fudge?
It depends whether you think Theresa May is absolutely brilliant strategist or someone who's got where she is by accident. But 2 years ago, when she was first became Prime Minister, she looked like she was never going to last very long. It was always going to be a bit shaky, and she's managed to go for 2 years so far. And if she can get us through to Brexit, then you're looking at maybe 3 years, and if that can be somehow presented as successful, then she'll have some kind of a legacy, which she certainly would. If she'd come out with this plan on day one of being a Prime Minister, she'd have been deposed a long time ago. I think facts and reality have acted upon the rest of the Conservative Party so that they can bluster and they can argue as much as they like. But in the long run, they've had to come around to the idea that they don't have much choice with this, and they have to come into line, and they have to have a softer Brexit that keeps business happy, and a large chunk of the electorate as well. Because those members of the Conservative Party that are this angry and are messaging Asa here and saying, oh, we're not going to put up with this, they are in the minority in Parliament, and they're certainly a minority in country. Most people, even if you voted for leaving, want a gentle kind of leaving. They don't want something that disrupts everybody's lives.
I just want to get one more in. We should say this is just a suggestion that has to be taken to Brussels. How do you think Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, is going to respond to this?
He's actually been much less hardline than he's previously been. He is speaking today, suggesting that he could revise his lines in kind. So obviously, when the formal paper is tabled, detailing everything, provided there's no sudden catches, I'm sure he should, knock on wood for the cabinet, being very positive about this. But of course, the thing that Theresa May can still point out is that, with the UK, if this goes wrong, the UK has the heft of basically 19 other EU member states leaving, in a sense. It is huge. And so obviously the EU has an interest that is increasingly dawning on its leaders to try and get some sort of deal. And so they're going to have to try and bend in their own way. Basically, the ball's been served into their court. It's over to them.
Another interesting week. Thank you so much for your company. Asa Bennett from the Telegraph and Susie Boniface from the Mirror, newspapers here in the UK. Thank you.